You're listening to Spotlight, the podcast that fosters connections with veterans and military spouses. Here's your host, Bob Lalvin.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Bob Lalvin, the host of the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Welcome today, my guest, Mike Sformo.
Yes,
That's
sir.
Sformo, and there are no silent letters in it. He is the CEO and founder of Operation Backbone, a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that's doing skull surgery and spine surgery for customers like the DoD and the VA. Mike, welcome to the Spotlight. Thanks for coming on the program.
Bob, it's a pleasure. I appreciate it. Congratulations on all your success. And it's great to see that there's more people out there highlighting great veterans organizations. So it's my pleasure. So thanks.
That's really great to have you on the program. But yeah, I'd like to start out. Tell me a little bit about, young Mike growing up, where you came from and how you ended up getting into the Navy.
So the real quick version, I'm originally from a tiny town called Corfu, New York, and it's about 15-20 minutes from Buffalo. So we always just say we're from Buffalo, New York. And I'm the youngest of four. My dad said I'm not the smartest by any degree. So he said, "You're not going to sit around and go do something." I said, "You know what I'm going to do, Dad?" He was a principal and then superintendent for schools. And I said, "I'm going to go join the Navy." And joined the Navy, was in the Gulf War, went around the world a couple times. Greatest decision of ever. I learned so much. It was such a blessing, and I owe the Navy everything, because where I am today is because of the Navy. The friendships, the connections, it was the greatest thing ever. So I'm truly appreciative for what the Navy did for me. And after the Navy, I became a contractor down in San Diego. I was in the welding and crane and rigging business, did a lot of work on submarines. And then after that, I got back with my high school sweetheart, Maria, who we are now married with 3 beautiful kids. And it kind of brought us to Operation Backbone. I was going back and forth from Buffalo, New York to Washington, D.C. I was doing a lot of lobbying / advocate work with a lot of members of Congress and the Senate on some healthcare issues. And after I hurt my back working out, I received a bill for $126. I asked the VA to compensate me for that. And then I realized what a can of worms we have in our VA system, and the bureaucracy and the red tape I was surprised, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm going to change the way the world does medicine for the entire United States military. And here we are almost 10 years later. We treat thousands of soldiers from the most severe types of injuries, from skull surgery, spine surgery, L4, pars fractures, falling out of helicopters. We work on guys from FORSCOM and women, FORSCOM, JSOC, MARSOC, DHA, Pentagon. We have commands all over the world that call us. We worked on a lot of coalition forces, other government agencies. And it's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least. And I have created an incredible network and a coalition across the United States that is extremely efficient. We're extremely fast. We're very accurate, and the military loves it. The military loves it. We provide an incredible service, and we're looking to service a lot more men and women, and that's kind of the nutshell.
What is let's talk about the scope of the problem a little bit and drill down. Number one, and like any bureaucracy, it runs with the efficiency of your average DMV. Maybe that's part of the problem. But how many people, in a year, need this kind of surgery within the VA and the Department of Defense? Let's talk about it from that level first.
So you got to kind of go in reverse to look at this. So last year, I believe the RAND Corporation did their study, and just for TBI, for traumatic brain injury, the backlog was a little over 300,000 cases. So you have to look at this as we do. If someone comes to us with a TBI, a massive concussion, there's usually a reason. So there's a point of impact. So what we have to do is kind of go back and figure out, how did you get this TBI in the first place? And then you have to kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper and go, okay, got it. What happened was that you were rappelling in Afghanistan, you fell out of the helicopter, L4 gets crushed into your spine. And being the GI Joe that we all are, we just keep going, going, going. We self-medicate. 8 years later, it breaks. All of a sudden, you have these other issues. So to answer your question, how many? There are thousands and thousands of people that need this type of surgery. The question is, how do you vet them and triage them accurately to find the pain generators in the first place, to
You
then
don't really
figure
have
out,
the smoking gun, so to speak, because of
yeah,
time.
it's not even so much that. There's a lot of other issues that go into this. You have a lot of men and women that are terrified because they have security clearance issues, they have retirement issues, they have benefit issues. All these things unfortunately play into what they're willing to allow certain people to do on them, for them, because the military sometimes is not the greatest to work with when it comes to med boarding. So a lot of times the military says, well, there's nothing we can do. We're just going to med board you out. This is a vicious process, and it's a meat grinder. So to answer your question, how many people really need it? There's thousands and thousands and thousands that do need it. What we do for active duty, the people are literally sent to us, and we're able to kind of give a quick snapshot of what happened. Because of active duty, it's a little bit easier, more to pinpoint. Veterans is a whole different animal, because sometimes they come to us and they've been retired or they've been med boarded out for the last 17 years. They don't have MRIs or CTs or fMRIs or all these other things. So we have to go through a whole battery of tests to go through this process to even see if there's a possibility to help he or she for their quality of life. So it is a lot, but if you base the number on TBI, it's 300,000-400,000 just from that alone. And it's a very complex thing to sit down and go through piece by piece, because all the different variables that play in, if that makes sense.
This is an interesting parallel. One of my guests a couple of weeks ago, uh, two of them actually, were folks that worked with a company operation called Soundoff. And one of the big problems is in the mental health community, people don't seek help because of the stigma and the potential negative impact on their career within the
Sure.
military. So
Mhm.
they created through Soundoff, an anonymous means for veterans and service members to seek the help, because
Right.
that seemed to be the biggest hurdle.
Mhm.
And so it's really interesting to me that somebody with a back injury or TBI would actually try to tough it out with,
Mhm.
Motrin and a little bit of time.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
and that's
it's
literally what's happening.
100%. And you got to keep this in mind, though. When you when you join and you want to be the Navy SEAL, the Night Stalker, the Green Beret, you're not going to be the first one to raise your hand and say, I got a boo-boo, it's time to get out. I equate this to football and hockey. We do a lot of stuff with professional athletes. And these guys would rather die on the ice than say, I'm done. And that's a very complex thing to do, because it's their heart and soul. I mean, that's who they are. And when you got to sit down and tell a fighter pilot or a female helicopter pilot who's they love this is their life, that you're only in 3 years, and I hate to tell you, but it's over. It's hard to accept, and it's devastating. And I see it, and I have to make these conversations with a lot of different people all through their lives at different stages. And it's the mental side of things, it's crushing, it's depressing. And then you, on top of that, you add on the Robaxin, the Baclofen, the ketamine, the morphine, the cocaine, the alcohol, the wife beating on you this way, the kids going this way, deployments. And it's difficult. And to go back to your other point too, Bob, is in terms of the mental side, I always use this to let people know it's like Alzheimer's. How do you take somebody that has Alzheimer's? If you have Alzheimer's, how do you know what to go do? You don't. You
Hmm.
just you don't. You need an advocate. You need someone that's going to show you 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's kind of what we do. It's just that on the mental side, it's very difficult, because there's a very fine line between being broken and hurt. I always say you can play hurt, you can't play injured. And when you get to that mental space, this is where things kind of get a little bit haywire, because I say to them, as much as I admire what you're doing, if you jump one more time, you're probably going to be a quadriplegic. And they're like, so be it. And I'm like, no. And then the reality hits of, as much as you think the military is going to wrap their arms around you and you're going to be part of this group for the rest of your life, the reality is, once you get hurt and you can't service and you can't do this, you're gone. And that's a tough, crushing reality. And I said, it's like being traded. You've just been traded. You're a machine and you've been traded, and life goes on. And when life goes on, you're the one left with the rod sticking in your back. You're the one that can't go hunting and fishing, and you're the one that's divorced, but the machine keeps moving. So it's very complex to deal with a lot of these guys, and very, very complex to deal with more women, because the women are out to prove it. And
you've opened up a couple of things for me to drill down on. One, are a lot of these patients suffering PTSD, or is that a complicating factor in that?
What is PTSD? It depends on how much brass you have on your shoulder and who says who has PTSD and who doesn't. I mean, is PTSD, I think going on and killing more people is a good thing, or is PTSD, I can't do it anymore? Is the PTSD, I'm having nightmares, or is it normal because what you do?
It's like most mental illnesses. Everybody's diagnosis is unique, right?
It's a fascinating thing. I work with a lot of different people, and I always say, I don't know who has PTSD and who's crazy. Are they ones that go crazy normal, or are the ones that don't go crazy abnormal? I mean, I don't have those answers. But again, I go back to the Alzheimer's. It's like talking to someone that has Alzheimer's and asking them questions. You can't always get the correct answer, and you have to make assumptions based on the medical treatments and options available. And that's kind of where we are.
So now go back to my smoking gun comment earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense of how many people you treat, just kind of have this injury that came on over a long period of time? I mean, they did 300 jumps and now their knees are shot,
Mm-hmm.
or their hips are shot, versus the acute situation that you can point to.
That's a great question. The majority of all the people we work on it's a small progression. It's a little nick, crack, break.
Is there a group that you see? I mean, do the special operators have more incidents? Who's at risk?
98% of every special forces person is who we kind of we work on. The acute ones are the guy that fell off the aircraft carrier and hit the deck on the way down, or the pilot that had an issue with the bends, or the Coast Guard person that was actually trying to help another person, and they're pulling a person out of the back of the ambulance and slips and falls and hits his head. Those are the kind of more of the acute ones. But this is a long, slow, ugly progression. Ugly progression of injuries that culminate to all of a sudden a break.
Are you seeing people on the TBI side that have had long-term exposure to concussive events like firing artillery? Is that
sure? Some of the guys
raising
we work
its
on,
ugly head as
sure.
an example?
Some of the guys we work on have 7, 8, 9,000 breaches over their career. I said, I mean, I don't even know.
It finally catches up with them.
Yeah. And then, and it goes back to TBI and PTSD. At what point is enough? And
I don't know what the tipping point is, one individual to another, but eventually.
And if you do come up with a tipping point, you ask them the psychological profile. You ask them, how do you feel? Good. Let's go. There are no answers, unfortunately. It's a machine. It's a machine, but it's like I say, it's just like football or hockey. These guys are willing to die because this is their career. And the minute they get hurt and carted off, they're in the locker room and somebody else takes their spot, and it just keeps going. And that's when they go, oh, I see what life is. And it's a difficult, ugly thing to see.
What what could the DoD, what could the DoD in particular, I guess, be doing that's more preventive as opposed to reactive in this sense? I mean, are they getting the word that, hey, you know, a lot of people are winding up this way. If we went back down the track and looked at the repetitive things that we're doing, we could prevent some of this?
I have to be careful what I say. I have this conversation with people all the time. So, two schools of thoughts. A, you signed up for it, and this is you signed up for this. You get banged up in this field, and this is the way it works. Or B, at what point do we start taking individuals out to treat them? That fine line, that gray area is 300 miles long of who makes the call and the determination. So it comes down to, are you more interested in trying to pander to some of these guys, or are you more issued or more concerned about trying to keep the mission moving forward and defending our country? That's what it really comes down to. Those two schools of thoughts. There is no answer.
Okay.
There is no answer.
So let me take you back down a little bit of a different track. Did you ever think you were going to be sort of an entrepreneur building a business?
No, as a matter of fact, the other day I woke up and I realized what I do for the first time, probably in about 10 years. And I have no medical, nothing, no background, barely made it out of high school. You know, I've learned one thing: why people choose not to be successful. It's painful. It hurts physically, mentally, financially, spiritually. It's painful. It hurts. And this is why people just have hobbies. You know, if, would have, plate's too full. I hear that. Very few people are able to execute. And the ones that can execute, out of those, it's very few that actually do. And then out of that, it's very, very few that can actually execute and do it. And then they execute and actually make it work. It's each field has their own person that rises to the top, but they're willing to go do what has to be done. They're willing to make the phone call 26 times a day to the same frickin' person over and over, and they're willing to listen to this garbage. And most people, it's too complex, it's too overwhelming, and you either are born with the ability to do it or you're not, in my opinion. And if you're born with the ability to do it, that doesn't actually mean you're actually going to go do it. So I have been jammed into this space, and there are many times I have begged the Lord to get out of it. I mean, people come to me, let me pay you X amount, and it's a huge chunk of money, and hell, God, the hell with all this. And then you get a phone call from a wife that says, my just want to let you know, my brother-in-law, he wanted me telling you thanks. He didn't blow his head off. You saved his life, and his baby's named after you. And you're just like, and you keep going, you know.
Do you
Or
think?
you get the girl that's burned over 80% of her body, and we're doing some stuff in California for a plastic surgeon, and she's got this smile on her face, and she's so freaking happy, and she's like, Mike, I'm the luckiest person alive. And I said, I said, you're so annoying how happy and optimistic you are. I said, you're ruining my whole day. I'm looking for excuses, and I got to listen to this. And you go back out and you start to march again. So,
Do you think having been in the service has helped you persevere as an entrepreneur?
everything. It took my life and went, and it put me in line. And I realized the greatest thing that the military does is, if you're going to weld, they pick you up after they scream and yell at you at boot camp, and they show you how to weld. That's it. A school, C school, whatever. And then you go to another one, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you become great at it. it's the greatest program ever I've ever seen. And to be 17, 18, 19 and see these young kids now on the flight decks doing this or subs, and that's all they do. And it's this immersion training. And you see some of the greatest CEOs, that's all they talk about is, if you want to do this, we're going to show you how to do it bigger and better and more. The military is the best.
I hadn't thought about this, but I just have this vision of this 18, 19-year-old doing the welding on a submarine. And then, you kind of want to make sure you know how to do that one. You don't
Yeah,
want that to
and
fail at 1,200 feet.
yeah, and on top of that, it's the people that train you. There's no barriers. There's no political correctness. I mean, when you get a guy that's, you're 18 years old and you're at C school in Philadelphia, and he flips his welding mask off because he's an old master chief with 39 years and with tattoos. He's got a chaw, a cup of coffee, and a cigarette, and flips his mask. And they show you how life works. And if you want to execute, this is how it works. You want to screw around, go ahead. But that to me was the greatest gift that the military ever showed me. And I put that in contrast to public schools and other thing. And I realized why it's all shot to hell, in my opinion, is because they want to teach you all this other stuff. That's great. 2 + 2 is 4. Show me how to do this, this, this. Show me how to execute. Show me how to build. And none of that is ever taught. And you see all these entrepreneurs, and it's the same thing. They say the same thing. I learned how to do one thing, and I found the best people, and I surrounded myself with people better, smarter, smarter, all of it. And you wrap yourself around them, and you go make it happen. That's what the military did for me.
How has your business model evolved over the 9 years? I sort of look back on my business plan and think about how sophomoric my ideas were in the beginning,
Mhm.
versus where they are today. How
Yeah,
how
that's
has
a
this
very
evolved?
yeah. That's a great thing. So to answer your last question real quick is, the people that I run with, when you that own hockey teams or football teams or race teams or massive hotels, and you sit in these meetings and you realize when you walk out how naive and immature business wise you are. And this is just from last week. The gift that I've been given to hear this and see this is absolutely incredible. So it's a fascinating thing to look back 9 years ago, and all the mistakes they're stunning. But then to look at where I am now, and then to where I was last week talking with somebody else about how this, and the learning curve is massive and it never ends. That's the beauty of it. It's just, if you can get the right people, they're going to show you, this is the mountain, this is how you get to this point. When you get to this point, let me know, and I'm going to reach down, I'll pull you to here. And then you got to get to that point, I'll show you how to do that. So that's been the greatest gift, is walking into meetings and walking out, and it hurts, especially when you open your mouth. They're like, you're so stupid, shut up and listen. I'm like, oh, okay, what a dumb idea was that? And I was like, I don't know whose that is. I don't know, maybe it was his, I don't know. In terms of how the business evolved, it was a nonprofit for 9 years. And then what happened was, when the DoD got more active involved with all the more and more active duty soldiers are coming to us nonstop. DHA and some of the other people got together and said, we'd like to have this possibly for contractual obligations. So I switched to, I still have the nonprofit, but we added an LLC, and then with the SDVSOB. So it changed drastically.
The folks that are listening on the podcast, I'm sitting here looking at Mike and what he describes as the bunker, and there are all these papers tagged to the wall here. So if you get on YouTube and look at this, I can see a picture of MacArthur there. But
Yeah.
you told me before the show you're kind of this avid reader. So what all is plastered all over? It looks like an episode of Homeland. Carrie is like trying to piece together how to capture the terrorists. But
my wife says, she goes, oh my God, my friends are coming over. And they're like, man, it looks like who was the guy that was sending the Unabomber?
yeah, there you go. She had on an orange jumpsuit and a beard.
These are some old pictures of the submarines that I have, pictures of the kids, quotes, I'm a big spiritual person. I do a lot of paintings. A lot of these are from all these different books, leadership books, World War One, the Civil War, World War II. I've always found it fascinating about how these people were able to do these things
But you've
30,
drawn some inspiration and some ideas from all of this reading, right?
yeah, and I'll tell you something else though. The leadership aspect of if you look into the Civil War, how is someone able to move a whole brigade from one state to another? Because I think about the sophistication that we have now, but they would have to send it via horse, and by the time it came back, the leadership that they had to have and the ability to maintain it at such a high level all the time, constantly changing, everything evolving around them is stunning and fascinating. And that's really what I draw from all of that sort of stuff. And in some of the mistakes, they just talk about how candid the mistakes are. And it's interesting to hear them and the stuff that they say. Churchill, I'm a big Churchill guy, and
Hmm.
you look at what he did, and these weren't just small things. These are huge, mega huge mistakes that shifted the war. And when Germany got involved, I mean, it's stunning that to read these things and looking back, and you're like, how could someone do D-Day was another one, Operation Paperclip, all these different things I love to read, and how it's interesting because how one or two people have changed the course of the entire world. And that seems to be the theme of who we are as Americans. It's one or two people. That's it. It's that one person that looks at the dead body that's floating during World War II and goes, well, I don't think it's really worth reporting. What do you think? Oh, no, the hell, let's just go to lunch. And that person's job was to say, God, I can't have this guy do the autopsy, because if he does, they're going to know that this was all staged. And that one person that took this guy to lunch and said, forget it, the body smells too much, was enough to move the entire German army during D-Day to the other side, so we didn't have even more of a massacre.
Hmm.
It's just, those are the types of things I draw on, and people have the power to do this in such good ways, but they don't understand it. They don't see the value in themselves and the power that they have. And when you read this stuff, it's fascinating.
Looking ahead, what's the plan for the next couple of years for Operation Backbone? What's the vision?
So we also do a lot of distribution. So our innovation sector that we're just bringing on, our goal is we go around the country and the world now. We're trying to find the latest and greatest innovation, whether it's spine, skull, TBI, PTSD, whatever it is. And then we take it through our entire process with all our surgeons. We go through it. Then what we do is we present it to the military and say, look, if we could use this new cage, or if we could do this, maybe we could get he or she back to the front lines, or we could save a quality of life, or we could do this and this. So that's been always my goal, is to find the greatest people that we can, latest innovations, bring them to one spot where we can highlight them, actually use it in somebody, and then go out there and not only use it on more soldiers, but who knows, it could be used on you someday, or your kids, or somebody else. And that's huge.
You
That's a
work
big
with
thing.
the organization. I guess it's out in San Antonio, and I'm not sure which hospital it was. But I think about where Alex Smith went, to do his recovery for his football injury.
Yeah. No, we work. Yes, we do. We work with a lot of, all the hospitals we are in are all private. They're all either private doctors, they're contractors, or
And these doctors are affiliated with Operation Backbone in
yeah.
some
So we
way.
have
Do you
to
actually
have,
have staff, or does everybody sort of
yeah,
work?
yeah. So the active duty is different than the VA. So the active duty is we have to have permission from the government to go do these certain things, and there's a lot of little moving parts that we have to put in there. So we have an incredible crew all over on standby 24/7, and we're just bringing on a new piece of software for technology for uploading images all over the world, so our 250 radiologists can take a look at it. So our timeline from start to finish, depending on the day and who's in surgery and who's not, I'll take a look at your images, I'll get you 25 different opinions, 25 different locations, we'll set up all the logistics. We'll do it in 4 hours.
And the VA will pay for it.
So
The DoD pays
the
for it.
deal, well, again, these are active duty, so they're coming to us asking us to do that.
What's going on the veteran side?
The thousands of cases I worked on, I've never had one case that we did not have to fight to get approval to do. Not one.
So how do we fix that?
You can't. You
You
can't.
can't.
Nope. You can't. And I'll tell you why, Bob. It's not. Here's the problem. The VA was designed to take people that had really bad injuries and give them a place to live comfortably and then eventually die. And that's what it was designed for. And you are not going to get, and I'll tell you we've tried it. You're not going to get a doctor making $6 million a year working on a professional hockey or football or baseball team to walk into the VA and make $200,000, if that. That's one thing. The second thing is you're not going to get the doctors that we work on that we run and gun and say, we're going to do these 3 today and we're good. You take the same doctor and put him in the VA system. And I said, how'd it go? We couldn't do this. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do this. They said we couldn't do this. We have to get authorization. To hell with it. See ya. It's not the doctors. It's not the nurses. This blame falls on one thing. And you can go to Reagan and every other president all the way to who we have now. They've created a bureaucracy that is stunning and impressive. And I always say, I would rather get my wisdom teeth out at the DMV than go to the local VA. Not because the doctor can't do it, because the process and what you have to do over and over, and then this, and that's what they've destroyed. They've destroyed the path. They've destroyed it. You want an ice cream? I say, I want this ice cream with sprinkles. Here you go, $5. You want an ice cream at the VA? Fine. There's 36 other places that you have to go to and ask them, and that's where we are today. This is not at all.
To start from scratch. You can't fix it.
Yeah, and when you ask CEOs of hospitals to come in and review it, and they look at you and they laugh and they walk out and they say, "You want me, who ran a hospital with 250,000 people, doctors all over the country, and I can get things done in 20 minutes, and now you want me to go and report to the United States Congress to a bunch of people that don't know anything about medical or running a business, and you want me to bow down to them so then they can turn around and tell me how to run the VA? See ya." And that's the problem. So until Reagan comes along and says, like they did with the air traffic controllers, which is probably more in your day, and everybody's fired and go hire the right people, you will never solve the problem. As a matter of fact, it'll be 100 times worse now with the Blue Water Navy, which are all the veterans from Vietnam and all the cancer. And all you have to do is prove longitude and latitude, wind direction, who you were there, a couple affidavits, how you got cancer, did you have it before, and submit it all. And that's why they shoot themselves and self-medicate.
I almost feel like we need to drill down on this issue. It could be a whole episode right there.
Yeah,
we could do a series on fixing the VA.
Yeah, but I would say it's not a fix. It's not a fix. The VA is an incredible organization that does a lot of great things. They're not designed to do what we do. If I always tell, here's the simplest analogy. Let's just say the VA has 100 people. We take the 100 people and we say, give us the top 5% that are the most complex and serious. We take them, put them into our system, fix them, and we give them back. That's it. But it's like it's unfortunate that you have so many great organizations that have to fill in the gaps, and yet we as taxpayers still flip the bill.
Mike, how do our listeners get in touch with Operation Backbone?
So there's the Operation Backbone LLC, which is just operationbackbonellc.com, or the website. The nonprofit is just operationbackbone.com. Either of them, they all go to us, and we're happy to
If you're a
talk to anybody.
patient and seeking help, is there a sort of a portal that they can learn a little bit?
So here's the problem that we ran into is we had 400 requests last month just from veterans. Just from veterans. It's so overloading. It's so overwhelming. So our focus really has been on the active duty side because we cannot get the cooperation at the VA level to do this. And my ask to the current administration and the past administration and everybody else, members of Congress, all of them, was the referral. We just need the referral system done. And you could probably streamline this to 40 to 50 or 60% faster and more efficient, but they refuse to. So that's been our focus on keeping the mission moving forward with mostly active duty. And we do help a lot of veterans, but it's just so complex because they come to you with no imaging, no background, no medical records, and they don't even know what's wrong. And somebody has to pay for that whole process, and that's why they're left aside.
We've been talking with Mike Sformo. He's the CEO and founder of Operation Backbone. Unfortunately, we're getting into the meaty topic, and we run out of minutes to cover it. So I'm going to leave it open, Mike. Maybe we'll invite you back in the future. Again, we're going to put links to Operation Backbone and ways that you can reach out to Mike and his organization on the show notes. Thanks so much to you for stepping into the spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Well, you do a great job. And like I said, it's a very complex thing that we do, and we are happy to support anybody in any time that we can. And my hat goes off to you, Bob, because this is something that you probably don't have to do. And I wish more people like you that had the resources would actually step up and do more of this stuff, because this is where we're lagging, and we need more people like you. So thank you.
Thanks very much. So you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. We air on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we're presenting veterans and members of the veteran community that are making a difference in our world. Mike Sformo, CEO and founder of Operation Backbone. Bravo Zulu to you, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.